I never expected to see him again. Not after all these years. I was walking through the crowded park, trying to clear my mind, when a familiar laugh cut through the noise. I froze. My heart skipped. It was him, Ethan. The boy who had once held my world in his hands, and then vanished without a word. I watched from behind a tree as he bent down to tie his shoes. The sunlight caught his hair, and for a second, it felt like time had folded back on itself. Everything from that summer came rushing back. The late-night talks, the silly bets we made, the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world. I hadn't seen him in over 10 years. 10 years of thinking I'd moved on. 10 years of thinking he had. I wanted to turn and walk away, but my feet didn't move. I couldn't. Something inside me whispered that this was important, that the universe had a reason for this moment. Then I noticed him glance up, and our eyes met. The world around us blurred. For a heartbeat, I felt like a teenager again, like nothing had changed. Lila. His voice was softer, unsure. I swallowed. Ethan. We stood there, frozen in a strange mix of joy and tension. Neither of us spoke at first. It was as if the years had built a wall between us, but the wall was trembling. I didn't expect to see you here, I finally managed. Me neither, he said, and his eyes flicked down for a moment, hesitant. Can we talk somewhere? I nodded, heart racing. We walked to a quiet bench by the fountain. Water spilled over the stones, catching the sunlight in little sparks, and it felt almost magical. He turned to me, serious now. Lila, I need to tell you something. I should have told you years ago, but I didn't know how. My chest tightened. I had waited for this moment for so long, even without knowing it. What is it? He took a deep breath. Back then, when I left, it wasn't because I didn't care. I had to go. Family reasons. Things I couldn't control. I blinked. It wasn't the answer I expected, but it explained a lot. The sudden disappearance, the silence, the heartbreak. I thought you forgot me, I whispered. I never did, he said, his eyes holding mine. Not for a single day. A shiver ran down my spine. My throat went dry. I wanted to believe him, but the years of pain made me cautious. I don't know if we can just pick up where we left off, I admitted. He nodded slowly. I know. I'm not asking that. I just needed you to know the truth. For a moment, the fountain's water seemed louder than our voices, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then he leaned closer and handed me a small envelope. My name was written on it in his familiar handwriting. What's this? I asked, my fingers trembling. Open it when you're alone, he said. I promise it's important. I nodded, my curiosity burning, but I didn't open it yet. Something told me this envelope carried more than words. It carried the past, and maybe a chance for the future too. We sat in silence for a few moments, watching the sunlight dance on the water. The air felt thick with unspoken emotions. Then, as if testing fate, he looked at me one last time. I have to go now, but I'll see you again soon. And just like that, he was gone, disappearing into the crowd like a memory made real. I clutched the envelope, my hands shaking. I didn't know what was inside, but I knew one thing. Whatever was written there could change everything. I looked back at the empty bench. The laughter, the sunshine, even the sound of the fountain couldn't calm the storm in my chest. I had no idea that opening that envelope would bring back more than just memories. It would bring choices, truths, and a chance I never thought I would get again. And I knew one thing for certain. My life was about to change forever. I sat on my bed that night, the envelope unopened beside me. The room was quiet, but my mind was loud with memories I hadn't touched in years. I remembered the first time I saw Ethan. It was the first day of high school. He was sitting under the old oak tree, sketchbook in hand, completely absorbed in a drawing. I tripped over a backpack and fell right in front of him. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice calm, kind. I looked up, embarrassed, and nodded. "Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks." He smiled, and that smile stayed with me for years. There was something in his eyes that made you feel like you were the only person in the world. We became fast friends, inseparable by the end of the first week. Lunches together, long walks home, sharing music and dreams. We understood each other in ways no one else could. I remembered the summer after sophomore year. We spent every day at the lake, skipping stones, laughing until our sides hurt, sharing secrets we never told anyone else. I told him about my fear of failing my exams, and he told me about his plan to travel and explore the world someday. "You'll do amazing things," I told him one evening as the sun dipped below the trees. "No," he said softly. "You will. I'll just be there cheering." That was the moment I realized I loved him, even though I didn't want to admit it. Then came the misunderstanding that changed everything. He had received a letter one afternoon. I remember the yellow envelope, the bold handwriting. He read it quickly, his face pale. "It's from my dad," he said, frowning. "He wants me to leave for the summer to help with the family business." "I have to go, Lila." I felt my chest tighten. "But why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I thought I could manage it without hurting anyone," he said. "I didn't want to ruin this summer for you." The words felt like a betrayal, even though they weren't. I didn't understand the urgency, the pressure he was under. In my confusion, I said things I didn't mean. "Maybe you never really cared," I said, trying to mask the fear in my voice. He looked hurt, stunned, and then he left without another word. For years, I blamed him for walking away. I told myself I would never let someone hurt me like that again. I convinced myself that my heart had moved on, even though a part of it never had. Opening the envelope now, I wondered if it would contain an explanation. I felt a mix of hope and fear. I couldn't remember the last time I had felt this kind of anticipation. Carefully tore it open and unfolded the paper. The handwriting was unmistakable. Ethan. I read the first line. "Lila, I never wanted to leave you like that. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now that I only hurt both of us. There's something you need to know about that summer." My hands trembled. I read further, and my mind raced back to the day he left. He explained that his family had been in trouble financially. They needed him to go immediately. He had tried to write me a letter at the time, but it never reached me. My father had intercepted it by mistake, thinking it was not important. The truth hit me like a wave. All those years of anger, all the assumptions I had made, were based on a simple miscommunication. I felt a mix of relief and guilt. I sank back onto the bed, staring at the ceiling. Everything I thought I knew about that summer was wrong. He hadn't abandoned me. He had tried to reach me, and life had gotten in the way. The final lines of his letter made my heart skip. "I'm here now, Lila. I don't know if we can fix what was lost, but I hope we can start again. Meet me at the old oak tree tomorrow at sunset." I held the letter close, my chest tight with emotion. The same oak tree where we had first met, where we had shared laughter, secrets, and our young hearts. I realized then that this wasn't just a letter. It was an invitation, a chance to rewrite the story we had left unfinished. And in that moment, I felt a spark of hope I hadn't felt in years. Maybe the past didn't have to define us. Maybe timing, destiny, and courage could finally bring us back together. I knew one thing for certain. Tomorrow would change everything. The sun was just beginning to dip behind the trees when I arrived at the old oak. My heart pounded, and my hands were sweaty even though the evening air was cool. The park was quiet, the fountain in the distance gurgling softly. And then I saw him. Ethan was already there, leaning against the tree like he had been waiting for me. He looked older, calmer, but the same. His eyes met mine instantly, and it was like no time had passed at all. "Hi," he said softly, his voice carrying that familiar warmth. "Hi," I replied, my words shaky. My mouth wanted to say more, but it froze. We walked toward each other slowly, hesitant, as if testing the water. When we were close enough to see the small details, the lines on his face, the way his hair fell into his eyes, I felt something tighten in my chest. Nostalgia mixed with something deeper, something I had been trying to ignore for years. "I can't believe you're here," I said finally. "I promised I would be," he said, smiling faintly. "I wouldn't have missed this." We sat down on the bench beneath the oak tree, the same bench where we had spent hours talking as teenagers. For a moment, we didn't speak, letting the memories settle around us. The smell of the grass, the chirping of birds, even the cool breeze felt like it had carried a piece of the past forward. "Do you remember the lake?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He chuckled. "Every day. You were so stubborn about skipping stones." "I had to win," I said, laughing despite the tension in my chest. "I had to prove I was better. And you always were," he replied, his eyes locking with mine. There was a seriousness behind his words that made my heart catch. I looked down at my hands. "I never understood why you left so suddenly. I thought you didn't care anymore." Ethan took a deep breath. "I tried to tell you, but the letter never reached you. My dad intercepted it by mistake. I wanted to stay, Lila. I really did. I just didn't have a choice." The words settled in my chest, heavy but freeing. Relief mixed with the old ache I had carried for years. "I blamed you for so long," I admitted quietly. "And I shouldn't have." "I know," he said softly. "I've blamed myself too. For everything. For leaving. For not being there when you needed me. For letting silence grow between us." We were quiet again, but this time it was a comfortable quiet, filled with understanding rather than uncertainty. Then he leaned slightly closer, and I felt the air between us shift. "I missed you," he said. Not joking, not teasing. Just plain, honest. My chest tightened. "I missed you too," I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. For a moment the world felt suspended. I wanted to reach out, to close the gap between us, but my mind hesitated. The years had changed us, but the feelings, they were still raw and real. "I don't know if we can just pick up where we left off," I said finally. "It's been a long time." "I know," he replied, his tone gentle. "I'm not asking for that. I just want to see if we can start something new. If we can be honest with each other now." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the same boy I had loved and the man he had become. The weight of years apart pressed on us both, but it didn't feel like a wall anymore. It felt like a bridge. "I want that," I whispered. "I want to try." He smiled, relief flickering across his face. "Then let's start." We sat there, watching the sunset turn the sky into shades of pink and gold. The world felt quiet around us, as if it had paused to let us have this moment. Then Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded piece of paper. He handed it to me without a word. I opened it slowly, and my eyes widened. It wasn't just a note or a memory. It was an address, and beneath it, a date. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely steady. He looked at me, his expression serious, almost pleading. "It's something I've been waiting to show you. Something important. I want you to see it, Lila. Will you come?" I stared at the paper, my heart racing. The past had brought us back together, but this was something else. Something that could change everything again. And in that moment, I realized the choice wasn't just about the past or the present. It was about what we were willing to risk for the future. The next afternoon, I found myself standing in front of a small, old cafe at the edge of town. Ethan was already inside, waiting with a nervous smile. The paper he had given me yesterday felt heavy in my pocket, carrying the weight of curiosity and fear. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said, as I sat down across from him. "I needed to know," I replied, my voice steady, though my hands shook slightly. "I need to understand why everything went wrong back then." He nodded, taking a deep breath. "I owe you that. More than you know." I leaned forward, willing him to speak. The cafe was quiet except for the low hum of the espresso machine. "I never meant to leave you without a word," he began. "I thought I was protecting you. My family was in trouble, serious trouble. My dad's business was failing, and he needed me there immediately. I thought I could handle it all without hurting you. But I was wrong." I felt my chest tighten. Years of anger, confusion, and sadness rose up inside me. "So you left because of them? You couldn't just tell me." "I tried," he said, his eyes searching mine. "I wrote a letter, but it never got to you. My dad intercepted it. He thought it wasn't urgent, that I could wait. I didn't realize it would change everything." I closed my eyes, letting the truth settle. It was hard to imagine that a single piece of paper had been the barrier between us for so long. "All these years," I whispered. "All the pain, the silence. It was just a mistake." "It was a mistake," he agreed softly, "but one that I've regretted every single day. Layla, I missed you. I never stopped thinking about you." I swallowed, emotions flooding in. "I missed you too. I blamed myself for letting go. I blamed you. I didn't know the truth." He reached across the table, his hand brushing mine. The gesture was simple, calm, but it carried everything we had both felt in silence for years. "I don't want to waste any more time," he said quietly. "I know we can't get back those years, but we can move forward. I'm asking you to trust me again, to let me in." I looked at him, really looked, and saw the sincerity, the vulnerability, and the hope. Part of me wanted to say yes immediately, to leap back into the connection we had lost. But another part hesitated, cautious from years of unanswered questions. "I want to believe you," I said finally. "I really do. But I don't know if I can just erase the past." "You don't have to erase it," he said gently. "We can learn from it. We can take it as it is and try again, piece by piece." I nodded slowly, feeling a mixture of relief and uncertainty. The weight of years apart was still there, but the tension had eased slightly, replaced by a fragile hope. We sat in silence, letting the words sink in. Outside, the sun was slipping lower, casting long shadows across the cafe floor. It was a quiet, intimate moment, one that felt suspended in time. Then he leaned closer and lowered his voice. "There's one more thing you need to know. Something I couldn't tell you before." I froze. "What is it?" He hesitated, his fingers tightening around his coffee cup. "It's about why my family situation was so complicated. And it involves someone you trusted back then. Someone who tried to stop me from reaching you." I blinked, confusion and alarm rising. "Someone? Who?" Ethan's eyes held mine, steady but serious. "It's not easy to say, but I need to. I want you to know the truth before we decide what comes next." My heart raced. This was more than I expected. More than just letters and timing. There was another layer to our story, one that had remained hidden all these years. "And if I don't like the truth?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly. You might not, he said softly. But it's your choice whether to walk away or to stay with me. I can't decide that for you. I just can't keep this from you any longer. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment. Everything we had felt, all the years of longing and misunderstanding, was now leading to a single point. A choice that could change everything between us. I looked at him, my heart torn between fear and hope. The truth was out. And now, everything depended on what I would do next. I stared at Ethan, the weight of his words settling over me like a quiet storm. The truth about his family, about who had tried to keep us apart, was more than I expected. But somehow, it made everything make sense. So that's why, I whispered, my throat tight. All the years of misunderstanding. It wasn't either of us at fault. He nodded slowly. Not at all. It was circumstances, timing, and people trying to protect me in their own way. I never stopped thinking about you, Lila. Never. I felt tears prick my eyes. Relief, sorrow, and love all collided at once. I reached out, and he took my hand gently, holding it as if letting go was impossible. I don't want to waste any more time, he said softly. Not now. Not ever again. I shook my head, smiling through the tears. Me neither. I forgive everything, Ethan. I forgive the past. And I want to try. I want to see where we can go from here. He squeezed my hand, and for the first time in years, I felt the weight of all our lost time lift. The air between us was lighter, filled with hope and possibility. We walked out of the cafe together, side by side, feeling the city around us hum with life. The sun had set, leaving a soft glow across the streets. It felt like the world was giving us a second chance. As we walked, Ethan paused and reached into his pocket. He pulled out another folded piece of paper, smaller this time. My heart skipped a beat. I wrote this for you years ago, he said quietly. I never gave it to you. I wanted you to have it now, for the right moment. I unfolded the note carefully. His handwriting was the same familiar script from the envelope I had opened days ago. It read, No matter where life takes us, you are the person I always remember. Every smile, every laugh, every small moment we shared means more than words can say. I hope one day we find our way back to each other. I looked up at him, tears spilling freely now. You really never forgot me. Never, he said simply. And I never will. I realized then that the years apart had only made us stronger. We had both grown, learned patience, and understood the value of truth and trust. The past could not be undone, but it had led us to this moment, exactly where we needed to be. We walked in silence for a while, holding hands, letting the city lights guide our steps. There was no rush, no pressure, just the comfort of knowing we were finally together, fully and honestly. When we reached the park where we first met, the old oak tree stood tall, bathed in moonlight. We stopped beneath it, taking in the quiet beauty. I think this tree has seen everything about us, I said with a soft laugh. Our laughter, our arguments, our secrets, and now, our reunion. Ethan smiled, pulling me closer. Then it's the perfect place to start again. He reached into his pocket one last time and handed me a small, smooth stone. For luck, he said. A reminder that even the smallest things can hold meaning. Just like us. I held the stone in my hand, feeling its weight and smoothness. It felt symbolic, like our journey in miniature. Solid, enduring, and real. We sat beneath the tree, hands intertwined, watching the moonlight dance through the branches. It felt like time had slowed, letting us savor the peace and the love we had found again. I realized that forgiveness, truth, and patience had brought us here. We didn't need the past to define us. It had shaped us, guided us, and now, finally, set us free. As I leaned my head on his shoulder, I whispered softly, We found our way back. We really did. And he whispered back, "And we're not letting go this time." The night held us in its quiet embrace. Stars glittered overhead, and for the first time in years, everything felt right. I closed my eyes, feeling the gentle warmth of his hand over mine, and thought that maybe, just maybe, destiny had been waiting for this moment all along. And in the stillness, I knew one thing for certain. No matter what the future held, our hearts had finally come home.